hardest part of being CEO today is not the competition. It's making the right decision when nothing is certain. Hello, business leaders. Welcome to CEO Coffee Conversation with Neetu Choudhary. I work with boards, CEOs, and business leaders to address their most critical business priorities through strategy, customer centricity, and leadership capability building. Today, we'll discuss one of the biggest challenges of CEOs is managing uncertainty and business risk. So let me start with something very direct. The only certain thing in business is uncertainty. And yet, most business leaders they fail at the system level. Most leadership systems are designed for stability, and that is the big gap. Not because strategy and execution, but between certainty based planning and uncertainty based reality. There is a huge gap between that. And the hidden truth about the leadership is when I ask CEOs what makes them up at the night, what keeps them up at the night, I rarely hear the competition or the technology. Most of the time, like 99% of the time, they say, we are making decisions with incomplete information. The market is changing faster than our planning cycle. We are reacting more than we are leading. And that's the biggest challenge leaders are facing currently. So let me simplify this. Problem is not the uncertainty. The problem is how leaders are trained to respond to uncertainty. And let me sink this one. Let me repeat it one more time because this is so important. The problem is not uncertainty. The problem is how leaders are trained to respond in uncertainty. So the response is what is creating the problem. And most organizations still operate as the future is predictable. It is not. It is not predictable. Things are changing so fast and in so uncertain way. So why traditional planning fails in the first place? If we talk about the annual planning, it assumes stability. If we talk about the quarterly reviews, they assume predictability. But today, both are outdated because by the time a plan is approved, customer expectation have shifted, technology have evolved, talent priorities have changed, and the risks are beyond move. So the things are moving so fast, and the real question is not what is our plan. The real question is, and I want all CEOs and business leaders to pay attention to this question is how fast can we adapt to our decision when reality changes? Adapting to new decision, being agile is the most important thing, and it is the most important questions CEO can ask. So the CEO role has shifted from being a controller to a navigator. The modern CEOs are not controller of the outcome. They are more the navigator of uncertainty when the teams are looking up to them. And navigation requires five key capabilities. So let me explain them and then break it down for you. The first one is decision clarity under pressure. This is so important. The second one is emotional resilience in ambiguity. So normal times you are having emotional resilience, but do you in uncertain time do you still have it? Scenario based thinking. Most CEOs and business leaders just forget about that, and we'll dive deep into about this topic. The next one is the fourth one is the strong communication during change. Communication is the key for business. And the fifth one is leadership presence in disruption. So let me break down each point for you so that you can start using for your company. The first one we spoke about is decision making in uncertainty. Now, in stable environment, that data leads the decision, but in uncertain environment, judgment leads the decision. And this is so important. Your data, you cannot get the accurate data quickly. So you have to use your judgment, past experience, your gut feeling, instinct to make decision. And the CEOs who struggle are not those without the data. They are those who wait for the perfect data and then only they can make the decision. So in reality, waiting is a decision. When you are not replying, you're waiting for the data, and it's often a very riskier decision. So not taking a decision is also a decision for your business. The second point, which I mentioned, which is required for CEOs and business leaders, is resilience in leadership system and not a personality trait. So we have seen that when we talk about leadership skills, we talk about resilience, but resilience is not only a personality trait anymore for leaders. It is more required in the entire system itself. And listen to this session again and let this sentence sink in. The resilience is required in the system, not only in the personality traits of the leaders. So many leaders believe that resilience is all about being strong. No, it is not. Resilience is about how quickly a system recovers after disruption, how quickly you bounce back, how quickly you come back and do things. That's what the resilience is. It's about the entire system and not about one person. And this includes leadership alignment, decision speed, emotional regulation in team, and clarity of priorities when the time is uncertain. Are the leaders aligned? Is decision taken very fast, quickly, and not you following the bureaucratic structure of 10, 20, 30 approval? Emotional regulation of the team, treating team as human being, not as a machine, and having clear priorities. These are some of the things required for this. And a resilient CEO is not somebody who avoids pressure. They shorten the recovery cycle, they bounce back quickly, and those are the resilient CEOs. So take some time, reflect on yourself, that are you a resilient CEO right now, or you want to work on yourself to be the one. The third point which I mentioned is scenario planning. Think beyond the future. Think about different possibilities, different universes, different verticals. So most organizations still ask, what will happen next? That's what we have asked till now, that what's next. But now the question has changed. And the high performing leaders, they ask entirely different question. They ask, what are the 3 4 different possible futures we must be ready for? So it's not only about what's next, it's about what are the 3 4 different possibilities that can happen if we take this decision. Is it preparing leadership behavior for multiple realities, getting your business ready for multiple realities? Because in uncertain market, the problem is not being wrong, the problem is being unprepared. And let me repeat this one more time for our business leaders. Problem is not being wrong, because if you're wrong, you can bounce back quickly. The problem is becoming unprepared. You don't know what's going to happen. So that is more of a reaction than a response from your side. So, if this session has resonated with you so far, especially if you are a CEO, board member, senior business leader, and currently navigating uncertainty, volatility, and rapid changes in your business, this is exactly where I work with leadership teams, CEOs, and board members. With my background in business excellence, Six Sigma, PM, project management, office leadership, IT, and global organization assessment, I have assessed more than 50 organizations for business excellence, various awards in the region and outside the globally as well. And I help leaders strengthen decision making under pressure, executing discipline in the changing environment, KPI system that adapt to reality, not to the plans, and leadership alignment during transformation. So these are some of the things which I have helped leaders navigate, especially when the things are changing very fast. And if you want to explore this further, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can send the message to me on LinkedIn. And your success is what matters the most to me. So let's continue with our fourth point. The fourth point I mentioned is stakeholder communication during uncertainty. Yes, you are bouncing back, you're resilient, you're taking care of your team, but are you communicating what you are doing? This is so important. In stable times, communication is about reporting. In uncertain times, communication is about leadership. You're standing up and you're saying, you're communicating to your team and stakeholders. And the worst mistake CEOs make is over explaining too late. Let me repeat that one more time. The worst mistake CEO makes during the uncertain time is over explaining too late. In disruption, silence creates fear faster than a bad news. You not saying anything, it creates more fear in your team and stakeholders. So high trust leaders do three things consistently. They communicate early, they communicate clearly, and they communicate consistently. They constantly keep them updated. Even when the answer is as simple as that we are still evaluating, we are still exploring, we are still trying to find the solution. So they keep their stakeholders informed. And because clarity is not about certainty, it's about the direction. Where are we heading? Whether we are moving or not. That's the most important thing. And the fifth point I mentioned, which is required in certain uncertain times to manage risk, is leadership presence in disruption. Don't disappear from the scene that your team is not seeing you, even if you're doing a lot of work. But if they can't see you, yes, that will create a panic and a fear in your stakeholders and your team. So people do not look at CEOs for answers. They look at stability. They look at emotional intelligence from them. So your tone, your behavior, your emotional presence often matters more than the strategy, how you communicate. And when leaders panic, organization fragment. When leaders are overly calm without clarity, organizations disconnect. So both the things are not good. The right balance is calm mind and decisive action. Both are required for going ahead in your business as a leader. And this combination only builds the trust. So in business, a delayed perfect decision is often more dangerous than the wrong decision made on time, because when you make wrong decision, you can bounce back and correct it. But if you delay a decision, it's too late. Maybe you will be wiped out of the market. So strong leaders don't wait for clarity. They take the decision and then make it right through execution. While executing, they figure out, okay, this doesn't work, that works, so we have to make it more refined one. Because in reality, the cost of delay is far higher than the cost of correction. And let me repeat this one more time: the cost of delay is much higher than the cost of correction. So go ahead with your decision, even if you don't have the 100% surety, 100% data available. And this doesn't mean that you're taking reckless risk on or putting everything at stake. But it does mean understanding one fundamental truth: without risk there is no reward. So be fast, take your risk, just go ahead with that, and take calculated risk so that you know, okay, if this doesn't work, what are the different scenarios, and I we can bounce back and we can fix it on the production, on the go, we can fix that one. So let me give a simple framework to all our CEOs. And when facing uncertainty, ask three simple questions. The first one is, what is changing faster than our ability to respond? This is so important question. Sit with your directors and ask this question: what is changing faster than our ability as a company to respond? The second important question for CEOs is, what decision cannot wait for the perfect information? What needs to be done fast? It could be in operations, it could be in sales, it could be in customer experience, it could be anything. So, what decision cannot wait for the perfect information? And the third one is, what must remain stable while everything else changes? What is the core purpose? What is the core value which will not change no matter what happens outside the world? So these are three very important questions which most of the CEOs I work with, I highly recommend them sit with your directors and ask these questions and see. Be honest, be open, listen to them, be the last person to speak when they are sharing their views. And this separates reactive leadership from adaptive leadership. So there's a big difference when you're open for all these questions. And in the business, the real risk is, let me be very clear for this one. The real risk is not the disruption. The biggest risk is leadership hesitation in disruption. Because same disruption one sees as a risk and they do not act and they do not take any decision. The other CEO may see it as an opportunity and they will excel in their work. So see that how do you do that one? The biggest risk is hesitation of the leaders in disruption rather than the actual disruption. Because market don't wait for the confidence, they reward clarity, speed, adaptation. How fast you can launch your product and how you are prepared to improve it, and how you can improve your services fast, how you can respond very fast. That's the most important thing. So in this conversation has made you feel, reflect on your own leadership approach, especially in this uncertain times, I would leave you with an invitation. Connect with me here on LinkedIn or send me message. I work with boards, CEOs, and leadership teams to strengthen decision making, improving execution in volatile environment, and build leadership teams that perform under pressure. Because in today's world, stability is not guaranteed, but strong leadership response is always a choice. And that response, that resilience is not made when the house is already on the fire. You start building it now, and then when uncertainty comes, your leadership team is already ready. So I want to close with this thought that uncertainty is not the enemy of the leadership. It is the test of the leadership. And CEOs who learn to lead in uncertainty will not just survive the future, they will define the future of the business, of the industry. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I would love to hear from you. What is the biggest uncertainty you're currently navigating as a leader? Please write in comments, and I would love to hear from you. And if you like this one, share it with someone who may need it. Thank you so much.